Okay, so I'm going to talk about the PoodLL Read Aloud activity today. And this activity is new in the Avenue courseware. And it allows you to select a reading passage, to ask your students to listen to a speaker read it, and to repeat after the speaker and record themselves while the reading passage is reading out loud. And the students also record their voice while they are reading out loud. Teachers can choose if they want to record their own voice, or if they want to use a machine voice, a computer artificial intelligence voice. And the plugin automatically grades the learner's reading for accuracy, which is measured as number of errors. And it also grades the students for fluency, which is measured as number of words per minute. For more reliability, it also supports manual grading by instructors so that they can override any grades that the machine has given to the students previously. Learners can later see their scores, they can listen to their own recording, and they can review their errors. And later on, at the end, they can save their reports for their e-portfolios. Now let's see how the activity works and how we can add this activity to our course. So the first step is to log into your course and click on the Turn Editing On button. Okay. So you scroll down to the appropriate topic where you want to add the activity. And in this case, it is Community and Government Services. So you scroll down to the bottom of the activity and you click on Add an Activity or Resource. So once you do that, the Add an Activity or Resource panel appears, and you need to click on the Read Aloud activity here. So the Adding a New Read Aloud activity appears, and as per usual, you need to type in a descriptive name in the name text box over here, and then you need to type in a description in the description text box. You can check this if you wish to display the description on the course page. But as usual, we usually do not recommend this because we can save a lot of screen space on the course menu if these descriptions do not show there. So once you've done this, you scroll down. And here you need to set a time limit for your activities. So from this time limit drop-down menu, you can choose no time limit if you wish to create a lot of time, to allow a lot of time for your students to practice over and over again, or if you would like to make it more challenging, you can set a time limit for probably higher level students where fluency is important. So once you check your time limit and you set it here, you type in the reading passage in this text box. Or if you have it on another document, you can simply copy and paste it over here. So as you scroll down, you have the alternatives text box. Now this text box allows the instructors to correct possible mistakes made by the read aloud machine. And yes, the machine does make mistakes sometimes, so we'll talk about them later. But for now, it's good to know that these mistakes can be caused by the program, which is incorrectly transcribing the student's pronunciation. For example, if the passage contains the word there, the program might misinterpret the student's attempt as there. So this does not mean that they are grammatically equal. This just means that phonologically they sound the same and the machine has confused them. And therefore, the machine will give a false negative point to the pronunciation of this segment if it hears it. To avoid this kind of misinterpretation, the two words can be listed in the alternatives text box separated by this little pipe character. The pipe character can be found on your keyboard, and usually if you hold the shift button and click on or hit backslash, you can find the pipe character. So the first word on the line, this one over here, is the one in the passage, and the next word is the word that you put in as an acceptable transcription. So note here that we have two words with the same characteristics. So it's there, and your, and we put each of these word sets in a separate line. They should not be all in the same line. We'll talk more about this later, so it will be clearer to you. As you scroll down, you can see the pre-attempt instructions and post-attempt instructions. These are provided by Moodle by default. If you wish to change the wording, you can always do that here and also here. We'll just leave them like they are for now. So this next screenshot, this is probably the most important setting of the whole activity. In the word per minute text box, you need to set the desired speed, which is the number of words the learner should read per minute. So the default is set at 100, but you can change this based on the student's level and the activity level. And note, whatever number you set here, the student should read that number of words or more to receive the full mark. If they read less, they will lose points. The next setting over here, you can check this over here if you would like to allow students to finish the activity before the time is up. So let's say you set the time limitation for 3 minutes, but the student finished the reading after 2 minutes, 15 seconds. Here you will be able to allow the students to leave the activity and not stay inside the activity for an extra 45 seconds. If you would like to allow that, you click this little text box, the checkbox over here. In the next section, you enable the listen mode. This box would allow you to, if you tick this box, you could let the students listen to the recording as many times as they wish. And it's really good exercise, and it's really suggested that you do tick this box so you allow the students to listen and practice with the listening. And the next one, check the enable practice mode or the shadowing text box is another interesting feature that allows the learners to read the passage while the model audio is playing. Enabling this option can give the learners an excellent opportunity to adjust their pronunciation, intonation, and speed to the model audio. In the next section here, if you check this box, the students will be able to practice reading the passage chunk by chunk, which is really good exercise if you want to show the students and give them practice on how to group the words in a sentence, not just read them individually and in an isolated fashion. So the next option here, the max attempts menu, allows the teachers to choose how many times you would like the learners to practice reading the passage. It's good if you want to do some skill building activities to set this to maybe unlimited, but if it's for like skill using or perhaps assessment tasks, limit this number over here. So if we scroll down, we will see some more features. So we have the grade section, which is pretty much similar to other Moodle activities. In the grade types, we have point or scale. We can set them here. And the maximum grade is also needed to be entered in here. If you have set grade categories in your course, you can choose the categories. I don't have any categories, so it doesn't show over here. So you can set a passing grade over here, 70, 80, depending on what your purpose is. And here in the grade options, if the students are allowed multiple attempts from the previous page where we set like several attempts were allowed, you can choose whether the score of the latest attempt goes to the gradebook or the score of the highest attempt goes to the gradebook. Again, depending on what the purpose of this activity is, you might want to choose either of these. In the next section, the grade calculation setting, it allows you to choose from 2 normal and strict options. The normal option only calculates the word per minute rate and grades the student's performance based on whether they reach the word per minute target or not, which is really good if you want to grade the students for their fluency. The strict option over here subtracts the number of errors or mispronunciations from the total number of words read and then calculates the word per minute grade. So you see the score is probably a little lower here, and it's good if you want to grade the students' fluency and accuracy at the same time. So as we move down, we have human and machine grading. And if you click on the arrows, you have 3 options. You can choose never use machine evaluation for grade, or use human and machine evaluation for grade, or always machine evaluation. I suggest using the second one because, like I mentioned a little earlier, sometimes the machine makes mistakes and you don't want that mistaken grade to be pushed to the student's gradebook. And it's always a good idea to have a second look at the machine's comments and suggestions. So if there are any errors, you can fix them. So it's good practice to use human or machine evaluation unless you have another purpose in mind. So as you keep scrolling down to set the settings here, you have the recording and AI options, which allow you to set the audio and recording settings of the activity. In the audio recorder type, you can choose how you would like the recording process to start. Would you like the students to test their microphones first and then start reading? Or would you like to start the recording immediately when the activity opens? The last option allows the students to upload their recordings that they have recorded before and send it to the teacher for manual grading. So if you would like to enable artificial intelligence or AI, you can tick this box. Because if you don't tick it, everything has to be manually. But if you tick it here, you'll be able to let the machine do some of the work for you. So as you scroll down, you have the option of changing the language of the passage. So you see we have a lot of languages included here, which offers a lot of potential. But for our purposes, we probably need English or maybe French at most. So anyway, within the English option, you see we have a lot of different varieties. So you can check US English or UK English, Australia, or anything else in between, the ones that are available. And you have the same for many other languages where you have different options for each language. So as you scroll down, you can also choose the TTS, the text-to-speech voice. So when you look at the English US, you have male and female voices to choose from. Again, that depends on your preferences, what you choose. You can choose any and scroll down. Right, so here we have the text-to-speech speed. So you have three options, how fast you would like the machine speaker to read the passage. We have medium speed, slow, or extra slow. Again, this depends pretty much on your students, what level they are, and what kind of practice would you like them to have. Please leave the next three settings as they are. They really don't apply to Avenue. These settings are only relevant when someone is using Amazon Web Services, which is a cloud platform used to store apps and data. We're not using that, so you can just disregard this section. So the next section has to do with the adjustment of the word per minute scores that the machine gives. So this setting allows you to change the machine's final score. But I would leave this for the end of the activity, not now, because for now I don't know if students have submitted anything or how the machine has corrected or graded those submissions. So I really don't know if there's any errors in the submission or the grading or not. So I cannot really judge if I need to adjust the computer score or not. Later on, if I take a look and I see that the machine has, for example, systematically calculated 5 false errors for all student recordings, I can come back, adjust by fixed amount, click here, and enter the number 5. This will adjust the student's grade, which was given by the machine. So again, we will leave it blank for now. If we need to, we can go back to it later after the activity is completed by everyone. So you scroll down, and here in the post-attempt options, you can link the Read Aloud activity to any other activity in your course. So that activity could be a reading comprehension quiz, maybe a writing forum, maybe other pronunciation and speaking activities, or whatever else is available. If you choose any of these options, they will follow this Read Aloud activity in your course. So if you scroll down after link to next activity, you have evaluation display. So in this drop-down menu, you can choose what the students see in their final reports. They will for sure see the passage itself, but you can also choose which detail to be included in the final report. And when you take a look at the rest of these settings, you see that they are the same settings that are shared in other Moodle activities as well. So I'll just skip them now. So once you're finished with the settings and happy with everything, you click on Save and Display. Right, so for now the activity is set. The students can sign in and start doing the activity. So let's log in as our student Lee Chan. What Lee needs to do is to find the topic, to find the activity, and click on the activity. So here, this is the main page of the activity that the student will see. So you see that there are 4 different options here that the student can choose from. The first is the listen option. And you remember we just set these in the general settings page, the slide where I mentioned this is important because if any of those boxes were not ticked, you won't see the options here. So we did tick the listen option. Students click here to listen to the passage, only listening. The practice section here allows the student to read the passage chunk by chunk, which is great exercise for practicing word groupings, phrases, clauses, idioms, and other multi-word units that are pronounced as a single unit. In the shadow mode, students can shadow the model speaker by reading simultaneously with the recording. And in the read section or the read option, the students read and they receive grades. So this is basically the most important part of the activity. Students will attempt this when they have enough practice with the other options. So let's start by clicking on listen to see how it works. So click here and immediately you will see a pop-up. You need to click allow to allow Avenue to use the microphone. So once you click allow, the students will see the reading passage and a play and a stop button. And they can play as many times as they want. There's no limitation here, and they can stop as many times as they need. So they can listen to this over and over, and when they feel that they've had enough practice, they can click on return to menu to go back. So the listening is still here, it's still active. They can repeat if they need to. So the next option is the practice option. But you see this is grayed out and it's not active. This is because we did not set this in the general setting pages. I mean, there was no option to set it there. I will show you how this works at the end. And later on, the students can go back to the activity and practice if they need to. But let's skip this for the time being and go to the shadow practice. So here the students can read along with the AI speaker or the teacher's recorded voice. So this exercise is very fun and it's very similar to a situation where we sing along with our favorite songs. And when the song is playing, we try to imitate the singer, we try to imitate their intonation and their speed, and sometimes even the pronunciation as well. So here the students basically do the same. They listen, and at the same time, they repeat the speaker. So a note of caution here, because this could be potentially challenging to the students, especially the very first time when they are not familiar with the speaker's voice and the speed and the pronunciation and other phonological aspects of the listening passage. So they might lose quite a few points when they are doing the shadow practice, but again, these points are not pushed to the grade book, so that's fine. Just let them know that this is going to happen so they won't be frustrated at the beginning. And at the end, if you feel that this is really difficult for the students, if you have chosen a very high speed or a medium or slow speed, you can always adjust the speed according to your student's level. So once you click on shadow practice, The learners will need to test their microphones first by clicking on the test microphone button here and speaking a few words. So please note here that the shadow mode and pretty much all the activity, it works best if the learners are wearing headsets with good microphones. If they do not use a microphone and they use their computer speech or microphone or the inbuilt microphone of the computer, the speech recognition machine might not function properly because it will pick up too much ambient noise, which is not good. And we'll see later why. So anyways, when they test their microphone and they speak, if everything is okay, the button will turn green and they can start the activity. So the reading passage appears and the AI speaker starts reading the text almost immediately. So students should be really ready. As soon as they click that start activity, the reading passage is going to start. So as soon as they hear the speaker, they should start reading along with it. The program will record their voice, and when they finish reading, they can click on stop. So this little pop-up will appear on their page. They can click on check for results to see how well they did. So the main activity page will appear, and they will see a little message on top saying that the program is checking their recording and it will take a few seconds. So, or it may even take a few minutes. So after this is completed, they will see this little message on top where they can view their full report. So they click here and they see their report. So they can see their attempt summary. Let's say the student practiced 3 times or shadow practiced 3 times. They'll be able to see their average and their highest score. They'll be able to see their progress chart. They'll be able to listen to their own voice down here by clicking on the play button. And they can also see their data, their word per minute, accuracy percentage, grade percentage, and mistakes numbers. So if they scroll down, they'll be able to see a detailed report of their mispronunciations in the reading. All the red words represent the student's mistake. And again, please note that this was the student's first attempt. So they were not really organized or oriented that much. And apparently, as you can see here, they missed out the whole first sentence and a couple of words from the second sentence before they started to get a hold of it. Again, please tell your students this is natural and they shouldn't be discouraged and they should continue. And another thing that you might see here at the bottom are a few words that the student did not have time to read. So these are also highlighted in gray. So once the students have seen their mistakes, they can click on Return to Menu here to go back to the activity main page. So again, if they wish, they could go back and do this again. If not, they can go here and click on Read when they feel ready to do the real activity and also record their voice. So this is not practice because like what I said, there's going to be a grade assigned to this particular section and the grade will appear in their grade book. Okay, so clicking here, the next page again prompts the students to test their microphone. If all's well, they will start the activity. And as soon as the next page opens, the recording starts and the students must begin reading the passage. When they finish the reading, they can click on Stop. So you see that the program might take a little time to process the audio file, and there's a little green progress bar circular here that also shows how much of the recording has been processed and uploaded so far. So in order to see their results, they can click on Check for Results and wait for the program again to check their recording in 7 seconds. And after that, they can click on View Full Report. So this time it looks pretty nice. So you can see only a few words are highlighted here in red, and the other parts apparently seem good, and the computer has accepted the other words as correct. So the students can now return to the menu. If they are allowed to have other attempts, they can repeat the attempt, they can do more, or if they don't want to, they can just leave the activity and wait for the teacher to check them out. So let's log in as the teacher again to see how the teacher is going to view the students' attempts. So I'm logged in here as the teacher. I clicked on the activity in the course, and what I see is 5 tabs on top of the page, and the other part of the activity is the same as the student sees. So if you have here if you click on the View tab, you'll be able to see exactly what the student saw, and you'll be able to experience it exactly as a student. So you can click on Listen, Shadow Practice, and Read to do what this student has done. If you want to take a look at the grades, you can click here on the Grading tab. This shows the student's attempt and how the program has graded them. So you see the student's name here. You see that there's a play button. You can click to listen to the audio file. You can see the number of attempts the student has made. In this case, the student only recorded 1 attempt. But if they had recorded like 2, 3, 4 attempts, that number would change here. And then you can also see the word per minute rate of the student. So you remember that we set this as 100. The student has read 143 words per minute, therefore the grade is 100. However, the accuracy percentage is 97 because of some of those errors that we just saw, they were highlighted there. And you can also see who graded this. This was graded by AI. It was graded by the machine. So for now, the teacher does not have any role, or rather has not had any role in grading this attempt. If the teacher wants to see how the machine graded it, or if they want to have their own personal opinion in the grading process, they will click here on Grade Now. So they can also click on time created. They can see when the activity was uploaded by the student, and they can also delete the attempt if they wish. So let's click on Grade Now to see how the student has done. To see the details. So you click on the media player if you wish, and you can listen to the student's complete attempt. If you scroll down, you can see the student's data here and the number of mistakes they made. And therefore, based on these mistakes, the accuracy percentage of 97%. So the red sections where the student made a mistake are highlighted here. If you listen to the audio and you agree with these mistakes, you can just click Save Changes and leave. But if you disagree, if you feel like you listen to this particular word and you feel that the student pronounced it correctly, but the machine did not calculate this as a correct word, you can go to the grading mode button here, click it, and go to the word. Just click on the word to remove the highlight. On the other hand, if again you listen to the student's recording and you feel that there were some words that the machine did not catch, you can always add those words by clicking on them. So one click on each word would highlight it. Right, so when you are in grading mode, if you are not sure about the student's pronunciation of certain words, you can always click on this play button and listen to the audio to add or remove mistakes, like we just explained. But this is not really that efficient because each time you will have to listen to the whole track from the beginning to the end to find the target word. But there's an easier way to this. You can click on Spot Check mode to listen to the student's pronunciation of any given highlighted error. So when you do that, you see that each of the incorrect words are highlighted in green. And if you click on any of these words, you can hear the student's pronunciation of that word. And please note that the program may include a few words before and a few words after that highlighted word when it's playing it back. That's natural, that's okay. So again, you have a look here, you listen to those words. If you're okay, you click on Save Changes. But if not, you can go to the grading mode and again, add or remove any words that you think are not supposed to be there, or they're supposed to be there. So, excuse me. So far we just had a look at, we listened to the computer audio and we decided if we agreed with the machine or not, and we added or removed words to the passage. However, for some reason, I don't understand why the computer has considered this to be an error, because I listened to it several times and I don't hear anything wrong, or the same with other words. So to understand the computer's thinking and to see what the computer heard, I can click on transcript check mode over here. So this time the passage appears and the mistakes are all highlighted in gray. If I click on each of those highlights, I can see what the computer heard. So this hyphenated word, 23-year-old, was heard by the computer as won't the years o'er, which is not acceptable. But it's software, it's programmed, so it does make mistakes. If I don't accept, I can go to grading mode and click here and remove that from the errors. But I would still like to take a look at the other words as well to see why the computer considered those to be errors, and in fact what the computer heard. So for volunteer, for example, the computer heard into or. Again, I listen to my student here, or I spot check the word and I don't feel the student has made any mistake, I can remove this. Or if I feel like it's really not pronounced correctly, I can keep it. But let's take a look at this particular word over here. So the word was those, the machine heard the. Now let's take a look at the words before and after, more the word after. So this was those skills. Now I can understand when the student is pronouncing this quickly, they might say the skills. So that's why that's what the computer heard. The computer heard the skills, and therefore is suggesting the word the, which was a transcription of those. So, and this is like linguistically quite possible when people are reading two words that follow each other, the sound quality of each of the phonemes might change there. So this is something I might want to look at in the future when I'm still in the activity. So I will keep this, but the other ones I don't really agree with the computer. I can go to the grading mode again. I can add or remove anything I want. And even if I'm in the grading mode and I don't agree with any of the mistakes that the computer has come up with, I can clear all the markers by clicking here. Once I do that, the passage is clear, the word per minute rate increases, accuracy percentage is 100%, grade is 100%, and there are 0 mistakes. So you can also do that if you really feel the computer was not accurate enough. Right, and you can also click cancel. So if you change your mind, you can click cancel, but you have to change your mind before you exit this part because later on it will not go back. Okay, so this was the grading section. Now let's take a look at the reports tab up here. Right, so here in the reports tab, you can click on the attempt summary report to see more details about each student's performance. So you can see that the summary of all the students will be displayed. I only had one student, but if I did have more, they would all appear here in a list. And Lee only had one attempt, like what we saw, and these are the other data of the student. So if I want to see, if let's say Lee had several attempts, I could click on her name, and then I would have a list of her attempts and all the different statistics related to that particular attempt, and I could grade each attempt separately if I wished. And an interesting thing that has changed here is this section graded by. You remember a few slides ago, this was AI, where we hadn't manipulated the scoring yet. But since we did change a few words here and there, The grading is now human. It's not AI anymore. Okay, so let's scroll up again to the top and click on our Alternatives Admin tab. So this tab over here allows you to view the information about all the students' pronunciation errors and the mistranscriptions. So first here you have the alternatives box where you can add the matching options for each word. So you remember we did these in the settings. You can scroll down to the summary of mistranscriptions, and here you can see the number of errors that the machine found in the passage. In this case, we only had 4 errors. So here you can see the passage index. So the first word that was considered as an error was word number 4. The word was 23 years old. Because it was hyphenated, it considers it to be one word. And you can see the count, like how often this mistranscription happened. And this is what the computer heard, won't the years or. So we already saw this when we were reviewing the mistranscriptions there. So the other word was volunteer. The computer heard A and 2. The other word that we were hesitating and thinking about was the word those. And here we have the word the. Now, this is really important to see why the computer decided this. So, you know, it's based on artificial intelligence, and it's based on text-to-speech technology. And while the voice recognition ability of the program has been carefully fine-tuned to cover different language variations, some unlikely mistranscriptions might be suggested based on the incoming data and how it's analyzed and compared against the machine's database. For example, the program might misinterpret and therefore mistranscribe linguistic assimilations. So an assimilation, as you might remember from your courses in college, is a case where two sounds become similar when they are adjacent. So we have the two words next year, for example. In many cases, you might hear people, especially native speakers, they might pronounce this as next year. So if the machine has not been programmed to understand this or to process this, the word next year, I mean, the sound next year is not a word, obviously, but the sound next year would appear here in the mistranscriptions column. So it's not a real word, it's just a pronunciation. Or if you have elisions, for example, you have the word friendship, but as you probably repeat this to yourself, you might notice that the D sound is not pronounced very strongly, and sometimes it's not pronounced at all. Or this one, the sentence, we asked him. Very rarely do we say these as 3 separate words. Like we probably won't say we asked him. We would just combine all these 3 words together and say we asked him. So a lot of sounds change, a lot of them are eliminated, no spaces, no pauses between them. So again, if the machine is not prepared for this or not programmed for this, these will all appear in the mistranscriptions errors. So let's go back to our good example here of those. So remember, it was those skills, and the students said the skills. And the machine identified this as a mistranscriptions. And we like what the machine did here. So I would like to add the word those from the passage up here in the alternatives text box, and also add the word the on the other side of the pipe. And please note that this does not mean that these 2 words are syntactically or semantically the same. It just means that they are alternative pronunciations for a given word. And please also note that the student will not see this. So this is just a note you leave for yourself, in fact, or it's just some instructions that you're giving to the machine. So the students will not see this to be confused. Okay, so let's go back to our Alternatives Administration tab. So the alternatives are set here. You can add more if you wish. And once you are done with the alternatives, you can just click here on Save and Reevaluate all attempts. And you can also click here, Push Machine Evaluation to Gradebook. Okay, so by now you saw that it's really difficult to decide on these alternatives because it's not always very easy to predict when and how the machine is going to misread the words. So in the next slide here, I have a list of common machine mistranscriptions, which was provided by PoodLL support, that you might find useful when you are creating your activity. So this makes your work a little bit easier if you know that the passage words are these, but they might be mispronounced and therefore mistranscribed as these words over here. So you can just copy these and paste them in your alternatives text box over here. Okay, so moving on to our View tab, you will remember that this little box was grayed out because it was not set. Now it's time for us to do that. So we will go in the Model Audio tab, and here we can choose if we want to record our own voice to be used as a model, or if we want to set the TTS voice, the AI speaker voice, to be used as a model. If you choose to use your own voice as a model, you click here and you start reading the passage. And then if you want to listen to your own recording to see if the quality is good or not, you can click play. If you are happy, you can save your voice. If you're not happy and you would like to have another recording, you can go back to record and repeat this, these few steps. So once you're happy and you save it, you need to click on Upload Audio File. This is a really important step because if you don't upload the file, the machine will automatically use its TTS feature selected in the settings. If you want to listen to your model audio, you just click here. So if you scroll down the same page, you will see the markup model audio over here. This function enables you to highlight each chunk of text for the students while it is being read out loud. This can help them concentrate on how the words are grouped in a sentence. So what you need to do here is to start playing the audio, and this is a must, like it does not work if the audio is not working. So click here on the play button, and as the speaker or the model is reading, you click at the end of each pause. For example, Krista is a 23-year-old, click. College student, click. She moved to Canada with her family, click. 5 years ago, click. So keep clicking after each pause until the end of the activity, and this is what you will see. So you can see that at the end of each pause, there is a blue sign that shows the grouping of the word is completed here. And then this is another word grouping that appears between two of these blue lines. So if you are happy with this, that's fine. You can clear the, you can save the model. If you're not happy and you would like to do it again, you can clear the model audio markup and do it again. Okay, so when you click on Save the Model Audio Markup, this will be your refreshed page, and you can see here that the practice option is not grayed out anymore. So let's click here to see how the students can work with this. We click. Again, we have play and stop buttons. We click to listen, and then we can stop it. So when we click play in this particular option, the passage plays only one chunk at a time. It doesn't play from the beginning to the end. So at the end of each chunk, the passage stops. The students will be able to see the words of that chunk. They can listen to it again. They can click this button to repeat the chunk and to record their voice. And they can click on the arrow to move to the next chunk. So when they read each of these chunks while they are recording and they click push to speak, the machine will give them immediate feedback for their correct and incorrect answers. So students will continue doing this until they reach the end of the reading passage. So once they're done, they can return to the activity and they will have their full report. So if they click on the full report, they can again see their attempt summary and their progress chart. Now, if they want to save this for their portfolio, all they need to do is to right-click on somewhere on the page, and when the operations menu opens, they click on print. The print menu opens. They can either choose to save this as a PDF and to save it in their e-portfolio, or they can print this on paper to save it in their physical binders. And I guess that is it. So yeah, I know it sounds like a lot of details, but once you do it, it's not really that difficult, and it's actually a really good activity, and it's really practical because especially these days when classes are not happening all the time and the teacher is not there to model, this is really a good activity for the students to practice both listening and speaking. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. So I noticed there were a lot of questions in the chat. Before I address any of those, I would like to answer two of your questions that you sent in your registration papers. The first question was, how can we use this for a literacy course? So the answer is, please don't. Like if your students are really FL or even PFL, they probably don't have the ability to read words yet. So it's a great idea to just hold back, wait until they reach like maybe 1L or 2L, and after you know that they are able to read a couple of words or a few more words, you can always add those words to the reading passage text box. So you can also add like 2 words, for example, good book. So it doesn't have to be a single word. It could be like phrases or clauses or very simple sentences. And then as they move on and they become more advanced, you can use some discourse, like it doesn't have to be a whole reading passage at the beginning. So that's one question. And another question was that I know it's already too late. I forgot to address this at the beginning. So in these presentations where we have to constantly log in as teacher and student, it's not really possible to do this online. It takes a lot of time. So just imagine if I wanted to log in as student and record my voice and then log in back as teacher and to look at all those options, it will take too much time and it's not really practical for a webinar. That's why this is presented as a PowerPoint presentation. However, you have my email. If you have any questions or if you're stuck anywhere, you can email me, you can leave your question in the teachers forum, and you can also read our really good help files. All right, so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you so much. This has been fantastic. There were 4 questions in the chat box that weren't really addressed, I don't think. So could I ask them to you now?
Yes, please. Yes.
The first one was, are there guidelines for how many words per minute a student should be able to speak at a given level, CLB 5, CLB 6? Do you know of anywhere teachers could find that information?
Well, that's a really good question. Well, honestly, I had a look at my reference books. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Paul Nation, but he's like my go-to person whenever I have a question like that. He's a reading expert. So you can go there. You can also check out the Extensive Reading Foundation, and different scholars have different ideas, but for intermediate students, it's usually around 100 and 120 words per minute. But again, it's something really individual. Some people just talk faster, some people are slower. But for like ESL, for second language or foreign language learners, I think around like 100 to 120 words per minute.
Fantastic, thank you. The next question was, is there a way to hide the text so that students only repeat what they hear rather than reading it?
I don't really think so because it's called Read Aloud. So there should be the reading text coming with it.
Yeah, it's a good point. I thought the assignment or even a quiz would be much better for those purposes.
That's right, yes.
Next question. Can you clarify what the language learning goal would be for a read aloud activity? It was kind of a broad question, but they're wondering, is this mainly for pronunciation or for vocabulary or prosodic features?
And for listening, yes, yes, for sure. So if you try this out, you will see that the computer speaker is actually really good. So if students are not interacting with the language as much as we would like them to, like if they're not watching too many movies or they're not listening to many podcasts or they have limited exposure to the language, this would be very helpful. And because we can adjust the speed, they don't have to worry about like very fast speaking individuals and not being able to follow what's being heard rather. So I think, yes, that's really good for their listening and also for their pronunciation because I've had a lot of students and they say that when we sing with a song, we really get how we should pronounce it. And I guess the more they pronounce it, the more comfortable they will be, especially with difficult words, multisyllable words, and with the chunking. That chunking exercise, the word groupings are also very helpful.
Those are great points. Thank you very much. A quick question from the chat box, just because it's a current question. A teacher is asking if you could repeat the name of the second resource again. I think they're referring to the words per minute resource that you mentioned.
Oh, okay. Yes, so you can go to the Extensive Reading Foundation. I can share those in the teachers forum because I'm not really sure about the website address. But if you search for Paul Nation, like you will see a lot of sources. You have to look for it a lot. Of course, it's not really sticking out. You have to take a look at the books inside and scan the books for the information. But he has a lot of good material on reading and word per minutes. I'll try
Thank
to
you.
share some more sources on the teacher forum.
No, I appreciate that. And thank you for mentioning the teachers forum. There were lots of great ideas in this chat, and I would encourage all teachers to share those ideas in the forum so that it reaches everyone coast to coast to coast. There was one last question from the chat box, and then we're all caught up. It was, how good is the computer at checking things like linking and drop sounds and other things like this? In your experience, do you have a comment on how well the AI does?
Okay, so let me show you something. I'm going to, if I can. Okay, remember that text that was all red? This one. This is all mine. So I'm not a native speaker. I make a lot of mistakes, but I'm not that bad. So I'm just showing, like the first few attempts, it's like you train yourself and the program as well. So it does happen. It's not really fine-tuned that much. That's why we have to go to the alternatives administration section and make sure that we set everything in the alternatives text box over there. And also we can use a different variety of speakers. So here I was actually trying to read with a British speaker. So it's a little different, and this could be the reason why some of these words were not accepted by the computer. But so the first time we were working on this read aloud activity, it was back in the summer, and I feel that within the few months they have made significant improvements. Like I can see a lot of the words do not appear here anymore, and so this one was from the summer activity, and this one over here, which is much better, this is from the recent activity. So I think they're working on it and they're trying to improve their AI.
Thank you for that. There's a few new questions here that are sort of related to each other. Teachers asking about if students don't have headphones or headsets, is it still possible to do this? And then the second question, which is a huge one, and I'm sorry to ask you on the spot, how about on phones? How is this going to work on phones?
Well, good question. I haven't tried it on my phone. I can try it and I'll leave my comments in the teachers forum. I don't know, honestly. I'm not sure how it will work, but I know that it doesn't work very accurately if there are no microphones. Like the computer microphone, it doesn't matter how good it is, it still won't pick up the right noises. Like if someone is speaking around the person who is doing the activity, it easily picks up that sound and it interprets them as words. So it doesn't do very well if there are no microphones, but I'll try that on a phone. I'm not sure how it works there.
Thank you for that. It is tough. Technology is always a challenge if learners are working with limited technology. Question now about stress and intonation affecting the results. Do you have any comment on stress and intonation with this read aloud?
Well, as far as I experienced, it doesn't affect it. Unless it's really off, like if the stress really changes the way the word is pronounced, it will pick it up. But if it's just a light mispronunciation, the program won't pick it up. And so for the intonation as well, because it's only programmed to identify the sounds, not really the tone of the sound, like rising or falling intonations.
Thank you. There is another question, and I think this could be addressed in general as this is brand new, right? Like this is fresh out of the box. I think you're one of the first people to be using this activity type. And teachers are asking what level you use this with, but I'm guessing this was an example for today's webinar. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes, it's correct. It's just an example. But this is from our exemplar course, the 2-3 exemplar course. And the passage is taken from one of the activities in the Government and Community Services exemplar course.
Thank you. Have you had any experience with the H5P Speak the Words? A teacher is asking if you could compare that to read aloud.
I don't have experience with that. I think John would be the perfect person to be able to answer that question.
Yes, in the teachers only forum, teachers can share their experience there and talk about different ways to use this. Another question, can learners also see the mistranscription in their report?
No, they won't be able to see that because it's potentially very confusing. So if one of those words appears there, because we said they're not syntactically or semantically valid, it's just how the computer heard the sound. So if, okay, here. So we would not want to share this with a student because it's nonsense. Like won't the years or is totally off. And if we share this with a student, I'm sure it's not going to help them pronounce this word any better because now they have something else planted in their head and they might not be sure, like, what is this supposed to mean? I think the concept of mistranscription is best if we keep it to ourselves as teachers and not share it with our students.
Excellent point and really good to know. Thank you. I see some thank yous coming in now. Great presentation. You're amazing. You really are. That was fantastic.
Thank you so much, Paul. And thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, I look forward to reading the chat. Lots of great comments for you.
Yeah, I will read it for sure. Thank you. So are there any other questions?
Nothing from the chat.
Nothing from the chat. Does anyone want to unmute themselves and ask anything? So in that case, it seems that we're all good then. Great, so thank you very much for being here today, everybody. Thanks, Paul, for your help again. And guess we can say goodbye. I wish you a very nice Friday and a great long weekend and happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Bye.